So today's video we're going to be doing an oil change on a 2009 Toyota Sienna van. This is my little oil change kit that I put together. It's a Sterilite box with a container, another Sterilite container. I love these things. This is what I put the old filters in. I use old coffee filters as cleanup rags. Obviously I've got my gloves, and then this is my container that I use to dump the old oil in. 12.7 quart. These are like $2, $3, $4 at Walmart. They work great for this. I've had this one bag, put my trash in. This is a little trick of mine, and I'll leave a link in the description below, but these are Mag Daddy magnets. They're great. I use these with binder clips, and then that way I can attach them to my bag and then just stick them on the car, and that way I can stick them anywhere on the car here, like so. Put them on the hood like that. Put your trash in them. Not going to fly away, and I love these things. So that's one of my tips, one of my tricks, besides using the Sterilite box for the oil change. Now this car, I have installed a Fram quick change drain plug. I don't think they sell these anymore, unfortunately. I don't know why, because I really love them. I've got them on all my cars, and I don't think they make them anymore, so my video is going to be a little different because I do have that. But obviously if you don't have that, you've just got the drain plug that you unscrew. I'll explain that also. Okay, this is where the oil filter is on the Sienna. It's a permanent filter housing. You can see it kind of has splines on it to give you some point of reference. That's the oil pan, and this dude right here, that's where the oil drain plug would normally be. Now I have this quick change thing that I've already installed on there, but this is where the filter goes. We're going to undo this first. This takes a 3/8 inch ratchet fitting right here, and you undo that, and you do want to have a pan under. A little bit of oil might come out, but then we're going to screw this little thing in there, which comes with the oil filter. And what I did is I attached a piece of clear tubing. At least it used to be clear. Now it's kind of oil colored. But anyway, we're going to undo this, and then this goes in there like that, and that drains the oil out of the filter housing. So then when we take this piece off right here, we don't get a ton of oil spilling out. And as far as the filter goes, I buy these online, usually on Amazon. That's the filter, the genuine Toyota filter. I go ahead and use those. These are just filter elements, obviously. I'm going to set the camera down here and just open it up. So what comes in the package is this little valve piece that you put into the bottom to release, and that's what you'd put your what I get the hose on. I just get the hosing at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can go take this piece with you actually when you get the filter and go see what fits the best. I think it's 5/8 inch. And then you get your two O-rings. That's the one that goes on, the smaller one goes on the bottom, the larger one goes on the main filter housing. And then obviously this is what the filter looks like. So you're just getting the element, and that's it. That's all you get. Okay, so I have the drain connector hooked up to the filter housing. We're draining the oil out. Again, I love using this clear tubing so you can actually see what's going on. I've got it going into my pan here. And another tip I will give you is to get some car ramps. These things are awesome. They raise the car up just enough to easily get under here and work. I've definitely invest in some of those if you don't already have them. And so this is my little trash bag setup that I was talking about earlier. I'll stick this under the car, and it's really cool to use these magnets. Just be careful what you stick them to. I wouldn't put them on the transmission pan over there and keep them away from that. But anyway, I love these things with binder clips. I can put them up under the car. They keep the bag from blowing away, which is another thing you might want to keep in mind when you're changing the oil, is try to pick a day when it's not windy. That way the oil doesn't get blown around, your stuff doesn't get blown around. And then I also use that smaller Sterilite box. I use that actually to put the oil filter in, to put the O-rings in, and I wait until that thing gets full, and then I take it to the recycling center and give all the filters to them when it gets full. And I do that to keep that stuff separate from the oil, because the oil is going to go back in an old oil container, and I don't have one right now, but I'll show it to you later when I'm cleaning up. Anyway, still waiting for this filter to empty out. I still see a little bit of oil coming out, which is the great thing about having a clear tubing. Alright, so we were done draining out of the oil filter housing. Another thing I do is I take a coffee filter. I'm real big on using coffee filters for these things. They typically just get thrown away. So I put a coffee filter up here in this hole just to catch any more oil that might come out, and I put that on there, and then I put the fitting on there that's going to take this off. Let's take the oil filter housing off, and I've got my specialty tool. I've got my 15/16 wrench that fits on it. This goes on there like so. I've got a reducer down to a 3/8, and then we're going to start that and take that off. You definitely want to have your pan under here. There's probably going to be a little bit of spillage, hopefully not too much. Hopefully we got most of the oil out of there by draining it. Oh yeah, it's not too bad. A little bit coming out. Anyway, and you'll get a couple of drips coming off of that, so you definitely want to have your pan under here. And then this is where I take the filter out. I put that over in my other container to keep it separate, and then here is that O-ring right here that we're going to take off, and it's real easy to take off. You kind of pinch it on the two, like 180 degrees there. Just give it a pinch, and it will expand enough to get your thumb under it. And then there's actually a spot here where it's flat on the housing on the two sides. That makes it actually easier to get your thumb under it, and off comes that. I also put that in my filter housing. Looks like we didn't get any oil coming out of the end of it. Anyway, so then I just take this, wipe it out really nice, again with a coffee filter. I like coffee filters, they don't leave a lot of lint behind also, which is a nice advantage. So after we get this all wiped out, we are going to throw that new element in there, and want to make darn sure you put the O-ring back on. So here's our new filter that I showed you all earlier, the Toyota. Excuse me. Anyway, these are the new O-rings, and obviously the smaller one's going to go on that bottom filter like so. I've probably got enough oil on my gloves already. You want to put a little bit of oil on there, and I've already got enough oil on my gloves from It doesn't have to be perfect or beautiful, but gosh, I do need to find the bottom piece. Sorry, folks, I didn't have that ready anyway. You just put the bottom piece on. I go ahead and just do this now. At least get it started. I'll tighten it up once I get it back on there, and then obviously the bigger O-ring is going to go on this. You want to make sure you get it in the right place. So it needs to go in that groove right there above these pieces, and you'll see there's like some grooves in this top piece. Anyway, you want to make sure you don't get it up here, that you actually do get it there. So yeah, you don't want it up where the threads are, that little channel just below that. And then we put in the filter element, and the filter element goes inside here, and you just push it all the way down, and then we thread this back up. Sorry, I'm trying to get just wipe this off real quick a little bit. I like to leave a little bit of oil in there for the O-ring. Anyway, pretty simple. You obviously want to get this started by hand, and you can pretty much do it all the way by hand, or you should be able to. And looks like we're on there good. So obviously we're just going to reverse this, tighten up the housing, and then we're going to tighten up this bottom piece. Doesn't have to be super tight. Oh, I had an extension. Oh, there we go. Got my extension on there. Makes that a little bit easier to get to. Anyway, again, doesn't have to be super tight. Just snug it up. And we're good on the filter. So now I drain the oil, and most of you all are going to have just a regular drain plug that you're going to have to unbolt. I've got this nice, cool little Fram drain deal on here, and these are really nice. Like I said, I don't know if you can get these anymore, but they sure make it quick and convenient. You don't have to have any tools to get the bolt off, but if you've got a bolt, then obviously you want to take the bolt off. I'm not sure what the torque is for the new bolt. I think there's a copper washer that goes on there that you want to get some extra copper washers and replace that. I'll see if I can't find links to those things to put in my description for you. Anyway, and also when you get this Fram kit, if you find one, they come with these crazy orange tubes. You know, I ixnay that tube. I get that clear tube and put that on there. Again, it's just so much easier to be able to see when the oil is finished draining out. I'm not sure why everything they make for oil changes is opaque and black, and you can't see the oil. It just seems kind of silly to me that they do that. Anyway, so we're going to let the oil drain out. Another suggestion I would give you is to run the engine for just a little while. Don't get it all the way hot, but what I do is pull it up on the ramps and let it run for probably a couple minutes just to get it warmed up. Right now it's not, I mean, it's warm to the touch, but it's not so hot that I can't touch it. You don't want to get it too hot you don't want to definitely change the oil right after you've been driving the car. You want to do it first thing in the morning. Like I said, let it run for just a few minutes. It just gets the oil warm so it comes out a little bit quicker. After we get this drained off, wipe that off, put the cap back on, and then we're going to go topside to put the new oil in. So our oil is finished draining, and we can see that because of this wonderful clear hose, and we can also see that our pan is basically full of oil. And that's another thing I did, I forgot to mention on this pan, is I took and made a little mark on it right here. It kind of shows me how much oil should be in the car. And I don't know how well you can see this, but if I hold this down, it's on a piece of cardboard on this end, but you can see it's right on that line. I don't see if you can see the line, but I just drew a little line on there. And that just kind of gives me an idea that I've got the right amount of oil coming out of the car. So yeah, this thing just comes up, unscrews, and comes off, and just wipe it. Set that there just for the time being, and then we just put this nice cap on there to protect it. Anyway, yeah, these frame quick change things, I'm not sure why they got rid of them. I've seen some valves that you can put under your car, but I don't like the idea. They stick down too far. They make me a little nervous having a valve under there that, you know, something might turn it and your oil might come out. This is really the best deal, but yeah, I haven't seen them. It doesn't stick down too far. Anyway, so now we just clean up our oil. We're going to pour that into an empty container that I kept. Another thing I like about these containers, they don't have anything, and this is something else I look for, is they don't have any little reinforcement pieces on the inside here. So the oil pours out of these very cleanly. It doesn't get, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't have any other pieces here that the oil is going to start dripping out the edge. So another thing when you're looking for one of these containers, the funny thing is the cheapest ones usually don't have those little reinforcements that you don't want. So one of those things where a dirty funnel that I pour the old oil through, and obviously every time I change the oil I keep a container and I write used and old and all that good stuff on it, but you can see how well this thing pours. I don't know how many years I bought those oil change pans at the auto parts store that were made out of the like black plastic or dark plastic, and it's kind of strange because you can't see the oil real well. With this you can see, I'll turn it so you can see it, it just pours great. And since there's no reinforcements or anything in here, it just comes right out the corner. And you know, I really thought the oil was going to degrade the plastic and it was going to crack, but I've been using this same one for years and years. You can see where it's all scratched up. I mean, really, it's lasted for years. Probably, you know, the funny thing is the ones I bought at the auto parts store, I think they split, cracked, leaked, whatever, ended up throwing them away. And then one day in a pinch, when that happened, I ended up grabbing one of these. I think I grabbed one of my wife's shoe boxes and took her shoes out. She wasn't too happy about that, but I ended up using her shoe box and I was like, wow, this thing works great. I'm just gonna go get some of those, which luckily I went and got a slightly bigger container. So obviously another thing I do is I do this on the ground just in case I spill some. It just goes on the dirt. You know, hey, the oil came out of the ground at one point, It's okay if a little bit goes back in. So, not that I'm advocating spilling oil anywhere. I definitely keep this. I take it to a reclamation place. Real big on trying to keep everything clean, reclaimed, recycled. So I keep some clean funnels in a Ziploc bag so they stay dust-free, whatnot. And then this is what I use to put the oil back in the car. And I'll usually take some coffee filters, shove them in there just to catch the oil that invariably ends up in there. So I'm going to cap that off, obviously, hold on to it. I wait until I have those totally full and then I take them to the recycling place. So this is the oil I use. Is Mobil 1. The car calls for 5 W30 weight. I use high mileage because my car has a lot of mileage on it. I think it's about 150,000 plus. It's running perfectly. Fingers crossed on that. Anyway, so make sure you clean or use a clean funnel to put the new oil in. On this car, the oil goes in right here, and you can usually see that. It tells you that you need to use API SL. It's kind of coming off, but you want to make sure your oil at least is SL. Mobil 1 covers pretty much everything, and it's 5 W30 weight. You'll see that right there on your oil cap. Usually it'll say engine oil. And then also, this is where you check the oil. Right there, that's the dip stick, as it is called. And so, now we put the oil in. And you want to make sure that you don't get that foil in there. So, once again, I love my little binder clips. So I use a binder clip. And I usually get this thing started with a binder clip, and I very carefully rip it out of there as much as I can. You want to make sure you don't get any of that in the oil. That could be a real mess. And I swear I don't own a binder clip company. Not yet, at least. So then, another good thing is to pour this oil like this. The way it starts out kind of slow. And this car actually takes 5 quarts, which is what this container is. Whoa! I want to be careful with that. Anyway, this is the fun part. Obviously, once I get it started, start turning it a little bit more. It's a good idea not to put too much oil in your car. Sometimes what I'll do is get down to the last. Well, I've changed oil in this car many times. It pretty much takes the whole container. I know that just from experience. I can basically put it all in and it's going to be right, but you don't want to check the level right now because it's up on jack stands and the car is not level. You want it to be level, and usually you want the car not to be driven, at least for a little while, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, to get an accurate level. You want the car to be on a level surface. So, but like I said, I know this car takes a whole 5 quart. So now this jug, I will write used on it to make sure that I know that this is for old oil. And then grab another lovely coffee filter or paper towel, whatever you have available. Let's see, wipe that off. Wipe this off. Probably would have been a good idea to put a piece of cardboard up here. Hey, just happen to have a piece of cardboard handy. Sorry, cameraman. Anyway, probably a good idea to just put a piece of cardboard up here. And there we go. Finishing touch. I'm going to pull the dipstick out just to demonstrate how to check your oil. Like I said, you want to make sure it's on a relatively level surface, and hopefully it's going to be hard to see because it's going to be nice and clean. But anyway, dipsticks, you want to have something to wipe it off with, and you should have 2 marks on your dipstick or hashes or something. And I'm just going over this for in general, not just this car, but that is your lower limit dot right there. That's your upper limit dot. On most cars, that represents a quart of oil. So obviously you want to be right in the middle. You don't want to be too high. So you want to wipe it off, put it back down all the way until it bottoms out, pull it back out, and be careful because it's going to have some oil on it. And you can see it's really hard to see because it's nice and clean, but it does look like it's above the lower dot. It's going to be reading a little bit low because I obviously just put it in and we're up on jack stands. So, but that's just so you know how to check the oil. Alright, well that concludes that. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more maintenance to my aging vehicle. Hopefully it will keep aging and keep running very well. And I have lots of little tips and tricks that I hope I can pass on to some other people and help them out. The maintenance required light. This comes on every 5,000 miles to remind you to change the oil. So it should be on right now if you need to change your oil. And I'm going to show you how to reset it. So you just want to make sure that the odometer button right here is in odometer, not trip A or trip B. So you just put it on odometer. Okay, after you've checked all that, turn the car off. You push and hold the button in. You turn the key to on. Don't start. You should see the maintenance required light blink off. Then you release the button. And then you turn the ignition back off. So now, the next time you start the car, obviously the light comes on, but that's just to test it. And you start the car, the maintenance required light is now off. And I'll have a little quick 7-step document attached to my video so you can download that, keep it in the glove box, which is what I do. Okay, that's it.